In Jung's analytical psychology, the conflict between conscious and the unconscious lies at the heart of neurosis and more broadly of the psychological development of the individual. Now, this internal conflict is not simply a matter of opposing desires, but a profound division within the psyche that reflects a deeper truth about the human condition. That is, we are not whole, but split between what we know and what we repress, between what we admit and what we exclude from our awareness. Now, according to Jung, neurosis arises when this tension between conscious and unconscious elements becomes unbearable. The conscious mind, with its ideals, ambitions, and social roles, often stands in sharp opposition to unconscious drives, fantasies, or forgotten memories. This is not merely a clash of instinct versus reason, but also a divergent values, symbols, and meanings. Consciousness tends to identify with a culturally sanctioned persona, a mask that conforms to societal expectations. But beneath this mask lie neglected or rejected parts of the self, the so called shadow, which often hold not only repressed desires but also valuable traits and potentials. Now, this division manifests most dramatically in the form of neurosis, but it is not limited to pathology. For Jung, the split is a universal condition of modern man. In two essays on analytical psychology, particularly in the second essay, The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, he observes that civilized consciousness has grown distant from instinctual life. The result is a personality that is often hollow, one sided, or over adapted, alienated both from nature and from the inner world. Now, the unconscious for Jung is not merely a reservoir of repressed content, as Freud conceived it, but a dynamic and autonomous system containing not only forgotten personal material, but also collective archetypal contents. Now, these deeper layers of the unconscious often strive toward consciousness, not destructively, but in an effort to restore wholeness. Yet, when the ego resists these unconscious incursions, conflict arises. The result may be anxiety, depression, compulsions, or irrational fantasies, all symptoms that paradoxically point toward healing. For Jung, the symptom is not the enemy, but the masses. He writes that neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. That is, the individual who refuses to consciously face the painful realities of inner conflict ends up suffering in a displaced, unconscious way. True psychological growth, therefore, demands that one confront the unconscious, integrate its content, and endure the necessary suffering that such confrontation brings. This process, which Jung calls individuation, is the path toward reconciling the divided self, toward becoming whole. But individuation is not about eliminating conflict. It is about holding the tension between the opposites. The conscious and the unconscious will never fully merge, and wholeness doesn't mean harmony in the superficial sense. Rather, it is the creative outcome of a dialectic process, an alchemical union in which opposing forces are not dissolved but transformed.